Coming up on today's episode of PSN, one of Canada's greatest wheelchair rugby players of all time, Mike Whitehead, joins the show. He announced his retirement from the sport after over 24 years. We'll get into it. Let's get started.
Welcome to Parasport Nation with Alex Smyth and Nathan Clement.
Hello, welcome in. I'm Alex Smyth, the host of PSN, as always joined by Nathan Clement, the co-host of the show. Nathan, we have a really special episode today. We get to have Mike Whitehead on. I've been able to get to know him in the past in interviews. You've had a chance to get to know him. He's retiring after almost 25 years, over 24 years in the sport on the national level. This is a huge accomplishment, to say the least, with countless medals and wins and just fascinating moments throughout his career.
Oh, this is just an incredible interview, and I'm really excited for everyone to get to be able to listen and experience this. As you mentioned, 24 years, that's 6 Paralympic Games. Just that kind of longevity being at the highest level of the sport is just absolutely phenomenal. I can't wait for everyone to listen and take in this interview.
Yeah, well, let's waste no further time. Here's our interview with Mike Whitehead. Mike, thank you for joining the show.
My pleasure.
So, you've announced your retirement last week. Has it truly sunken in yet, or are you still kind of getting used to this post-athlete lifestyle?
Yeah, some of it's sunken in. I think not going to the next training camp. I think it's going to be a gradual process, right? It's something I've been preparing for quite some time, in my heart, in my mind. So the preparation helps, but time is going to be another one that's going to be some indicators. But yeah, I feel good, and, I still have a lot of great connections, and I have a lot of enthusiasm and excitement about what's next.
Congratulations on the retirement. Since you've announced it last week, has there been any real emotions or memories that has really come up since announcing it?
Yeah, there has. There's been the memories have been kind of trickling in here and there, and it's just a lot of heartwarming, fun memories of events and travel and the card games and the wins, the losses, texting and chatting with a few folks here and there brings those up. But I did have a reflection as I was driving by myself to the gym, because I'm still a gym rat. It kind of felt like after I made the team in May of, in 2001. And I remember driving down the 401 from Toronto to London, where I was living, and just having that feeling of, holy smokes, like I did it. I made the team. So I kind of had that other realization, like, holy smokes, I did it, but holy smokes, it's real. It's real. We're on to the next chapter. It just sunk in, which was great. I'm feeling light about it, which is a nice feeling.
As you mentioned, it's been over 24 years that you were with the team. Why was now the right time to retire?
My body the last few years has been telling me, I've done a good job for you, but I'm starting to feel a little abused here. Us Paralympians, we try to be the best of the world every day. And if you clock up the hours and the years, it's a lot of time in the gym and competing against the best in the world and trying to live up to that standard for yourself and for your team and your country. And so the last few years, my body at times have been saying, like, hey, bud, no amount of rest, recovery, massage is gonna, so just, yeah. So I was just trying to follow the body on this one. And then from there, we got some young guys in our country that are hungry, and I just can't wait to see what they're up to next. And making maybe a little bit of space for them, is I feel like the right thing to do, and it just feels right, it just feels right.
You've worn the Maple Leaf at 6 Paralympics now, an absolutely incredible amount of games. How have you seen wheelchair rugby grow since Athens in 2004
Yeah.
to now Paris in 2024?
Yeah. Oh my God. My pops reading the Windsor Star in 2004 to, get in print to get the update. And then I had to email them like that night. And, so just social media, let alone the coverage and the kids in the stands. It was a pretty amazing experience. 04. We silvered. We were up until the third quarter, and then New Zealand came back on us. But the kids in the stands, because they were, getting a hall pass from school that day compared to France and Paris and competing next to the Eiffel Tower in front of, tens of thousands of fans paying upwards of €600 for one ticket. There's a big jump here into our movement, and seeing everything in between, all the big sponsors jumping on board, because we're professionals, and that's just a fact now, has been such a beautiful thing to watch all of us take part in. It's really cool.
What about the sport itself? Like, how has wheelchair rugby evolved through these decades?
Yeah, well, the rules are changing. They keep changing. So that speeds up the game. The level of professionalism, training, year-round competition, more international competitions, just the speed, and strategy and intelligence. We're a little bit like artists as far as we're all taking something from each other always to get faster and smarter and better. And then technology improves and training improves. Sports science improves. Our funding goes up. So we have better sports science, the video analysis, the tracking of the chairs. When we started, we had Kathy and our nurse and an equipment guy and a coach. Now we travel with 10, 12 staff. So it's evolved at such a rapid pace, but I would just say the speed and intelligence that these players around the world and these coaching staffs and sports science teams have around the world, it's amazing. It's beautiful, and it's, cutting edge.
I want to go back to you personally for 1 second. When you look back at your 24-year career, is there anything that you take the most pride in from your time as a wheelchair rugby player?
I think the support that my friends and family, some of these texts I've gotten in the last few days and weeks have been pretty special. Friends that were in the hospital when I broke my neck, and sharing that journey with them and them sharing it with me. So I think I come from a little town, Harrow, Ontario, and having the support and thinking back of, when I was in the hospital, and breaking my neck, and the support. So you don't do it alone. Early in my career, I thought, Mikey's doing it alone here. He's pretty special, and we don't do it alone. So the family and friends, my kids, being a part of that journey, I'm pretty proud of. My kids went to 3 Paralympics and been traveling the world, and reflecting with them a bit about it has been quite special. I think it's pretty cool to compete in every Paralympic game I attended. So having 30 games experience is pretty special. I think that one's kind of neat as well.
Is there a specific game or a moment that stands out, that one that you always recall when you're thinking back of the catalog of all those games and all those competitions you went to? Is there any that really kind of rise a little bit above the others?
You know what? It's bittersweet. There's two. In 2008, we were in the semis against Australia. Riley was in the box, and we had everything sorted out. It was right there. We were going to ice it to go to another gold-silver match. I had the ball on a platter like this, and I was looking left, and I forget his name. But anyway, the ball was swiped. Riley comes out of the box. They score. We go to overtime. We lose in a last second play. And I say that because what it did to solidify a few things, the love in the locker room after, I'll never forget, from the support and the guys and the girls in that locker room. We went out and beat GB for the bronze the next day. But what a moment, what a moment. And it was tragic. It was heartbreaking. So that one always sticks out because, I was taught to learn that, keep that as a tool and train on that and grind on that. And that's one of the things I focused on, which brings us to 2012. We're in the semis against USA, and we're in the same heated battle. One goal. Trev hits me with an inbound, Chuck hits my chair a bit, and Trev and I have been doing, 10,000, 100,000 inbounds, and USA gets the ball. And we're down to the stretch, and we put a few things in place. USA inbounds the ball, and we put some pressure on them. Old G Money gets out there, and Jared Funk's out there, myself and Trev, and we get the ball back, and we score with under a second. Big one. So that one, those two are kind of like the yin and yang, but they complement each other, and you work, so those two stick out.
You yourself is one of the greatest wheelchair rugby players of all time, but you've also played with and played against some of the greatest. Who would be your all-time Mount Rushmore of wheelchair rugby players?
There's decades, right? So it's like this hockey talk, where do you put Gretzky and Messier and the Edmonton Oilers and stuff like this, right? Compared to what those guys are doing now. Every team has, a profound set of low pointers. And the low pointers, they're not the Zacks or the Rileys, and the EKs that are putting up 20, 30 goals. But to understand the nuance is the low pointers. So when I think of low pointers around the world, and when a team cultivates their low pointers, we've seen Japan do this. So Mount Rushmore is filled with low pointers, including ours. But, when it comes to high pointers, you got the Zach, the Riley, the Garretts, the Chucks. France has a couple of youngsters that are just killing it out there. You got Japan with their high pointers. Like, these guys are fast and strong and smart. It's hard. It's hard to pick because, there's big gamers. There's guys that have really put the work in and had the tears that, now are just dominating the world. And guys that are improving, Zach's young. So it's going to be great to see. But, Zach and Garrett are pretty special, and we've had some deuces that are pretty special on our team.
You had talked about, the memory having Trevor Hirschfield on that team with you. He was recently announced as the head coach for the team. What does he bring as that former player, being one of the only former players to actually now become a head coach for wheelchair rugby? But what does that mean for you as well? That, okay, the future of the sport in this team, they're in probably some pretty good hands, aren't they?
Very, very good hands. I was so happy to see that. You just don't know what direction the CEO is going to go and the board, right? And I was so happy to see that. He's so smart. And I've seen Trev, I remember Trev came in 06, Worlds, 05, and he was grinding against Mike Bacon to fight for his position on the team. So I seen a young man fight for every inch of that court year after year after year, and his level of improvement, this guy can inbound with all the English with a hand that doesn't even work. Like, it's insane. You know what I mean? And that didn't just happen. The distance, the accuracy, the spin, the anticipation. So that just gives you a little bit of idea of Trevor's intelligence, his commitment, his passion. He's passionate. He's passionate. So it's not going to be easy, I feel, for those guys to get behind him. And he's going to guide them, I feel, down a path of students of the game. He's a student of the game. He can talk about an inbound for hours, breaking it down. His mental preparation, his physical preparation, his speed, all of it. So he's got the respect of the guys, which is really cool. And he's going to bring them some special places, I believe.
Mike, it's been a pleasure getting to know you over the last couple of years and just the impact that you've had on parasport. You're way too humble, but you've done so many incredible things for the Paralympic movement in Canada and around the world, and it's important that you know that at the end of the day. But is there anything that you really hope that's going to be your lasting legacy in wheelchair rugby, but also parasport as a whole?
It's really sweet of you. Thank you. It's easy to give this back to, that time and heart. It's just an easy community to give back to. You know that. So I appreciate that. It's really nice. I think of the youngsters that are playing in Ottawa and out in BC. They have these youth programs, and I think of a 12-year-old that I measured for a chair. And, I think the power of the community and the power of sport, those two things together are the magic potion. Just keep coming back. And I think thinking about the youngsters and them, where their journey's going to go. And hopefully, I played a role in that, and somehow, either through the Athletes Council of CPC or being a part of the national team or a little bit of coaching that I've done. And just, if I impacted them, that's pretty special because I'm coming up on 50. You know what I mean? And what a gift, to have a community and a sport. And I hope they get that gift too.
Have you given any thought yet to what you're going to be doing going forward? Because I'll be honest, when me and Nathan first heard the news and we reacted on the show, we're like, well, there's no way Mike's truly going away from the sport entirely. There's going to be some involvement on some level, but have you given any thought to that yet, or are you still kind of processing the immediacy of it all?
Yeah, it's so interesting, the reflection, and we're driven as Paralympians. I know this, so it's tricky because I was training today in the gym. You know what I mean? Like I spent some time in there, and that's home base for me. And so we want to win. We want to work hard. We want to win. We want purpose. We want to grind. But there's also time for. It's important to make some time to reflect and to take a step back and see what comes. I've been working a little bit with some coach education for a friend of mine's company. And I love that. You know what I mean? Sports skills are life skills, and that sport has given so much to me. So, I'm going to stay involved in sport. It's where my heart is. It's where my passion is. Maybe a different sport, I love basketball, able-bodied. I love all kinds of sport. I love pickleball, you know what I mean? And watching people have a good time playing pickleball. I love it all. So we'll see where it goes, but I'm just trying to take some time right now and see what comes to fruition. But, I'm trying to not get too busy in the right now, which is tricky. It's tricky because we want to, we're driven folk. So it was a long road into the woods, training and competing for 24 years. And I want to stay in sport. And, I have a feeling that's going to come out, in some fashion. So we'll see where it heads.
Mike, you've been so generous with your time today. Thank you so much. And it's been a pleasure for us to be able to watch and see your career through all these years. So best of luck going forward, and hopefully you do not get too busy right away. You can fill in the time and the schedule a bit later.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, my son has a big senior year in lacrosse, so that's coming up. I can't wait to catch some of those games, and having some time for that would be number one on the priority right now, priority list. So thanks, guys. I appreciate the questions and the kind sentiments. Means a lot. So thank you for that.
Before we get into any of the points that Mike brought up during that interview, it's easily become one of my favorite interviews I think we've done since starting this show. The level of just realness, that's that twinge of emotion, but not emotional, but emotion, and the reflectiveness that he was able to show Nathan. I thought it was really special. It's like we were there with him having a conversation, not doing an interview on a broadcast on a show. This was like a one-on-one conversation side by side.
Yeah, it felt like we were just there talking to a friend at an event or at their place, and it just felt so raw and real. And you can tell just with Mike, just the humility that he has and the absolute class of that man, where he's celebrating so many other athletes and really just taking the time to really make sure everyone around him is getting that acknowledgement too. And just for him and getting to know what he's done for the Paralympic movement, and especially wheelchair rugby in Canada, has just been absolutely phenomenal. And something that really caught your eye in that interview was just how well detailed his play-by-play of each game and each match he was a part of was. Just yeah,
when he was reflecting on when I asked him about like his favorite moments or the most memorable one, and he painted a picture. I was there. I was sitting in his sport wheelchair as he was describing the scene, the tension. Okay, we had him in the penalty box. I was getting ready to pass it. It got swiped. We lost. The heartbreak. But then to turn it around and win in that bronze medal match, it was truly something special. And that response just shows that, that humility helps build you. That defeat, that loss, that pain and sorrow of losing a match when you think you have it there, that you can go for a gold or silver medal, it builds into the future. It builds going forward. And that's why those moments seem to really stick with anyone, any athlete that I've ever spoken to. They always talk about those types of moments. And it was just beautifully laid out from Mike. I also know for you, just hearing him talk about with that kind of that sense of being, finding out about everyone else, like just talking, how are you doing and checking in. I think that really comes from the humble beginnings, that having been a part of a sport for 25 years, roughly, from humble beginnings, as he talked about, to now at the Paris Paralympics, where people are willing to pay hundreds of dollars per ticket to go and see their matches. I think there is always that strong sense of community, of knowing where you came from, where you need to go, and how you support each other. I think that really comes through when we were speaking with them.
It really does. And it's that old saying where rugby or wheelchair rugby, it is a gentleman's game. And he is such a class act, where it's that humble roots. It's realizing where you've come from to where you're going now. And people like him, like Mike, have really set a culture there where they're giving back. I know especially in British Columbia, and he even mentioned it in the interview, was just the camps, the training opportunities here in my province, but also across the country too, is giving that time where a lot of those first team athletes are going out, they're getting engaged in the community. Like, I don't go a week or two without seeing wheelchair rugby players giving back to the kids, giving back to the youth, giving that 12-year-old, as he mentioned, giving that young child that opportunity to play, get involved in that community. And that's something you and I always talk about, is that bit of community is so special. And I feel like how I would view Mike's legacy, and I'd love to ask you at the end of this, is just the legacy of giving back. I think that's what stands out for me about him, but I don't know about you.
I think absolutely giving back, and he touched on that multiple times. I think also too, it's being a part of a sport at a pivotal moment or period of time and transition. I mean, like, you think back to the early 2000s, people thought wheelchair rugby murderballed. Like, that was just this a little bit of that sensationalism of like growing. What is this? There's a mystery. There's a bit of danger to it. But him talking about those early matches to where they are now, being a part of that drastic change in the parasport scene, in the Paralympic scene, in the awareness of disability sport overall, I think that's going to be really a cornerstone of what his legacy is. He was in a pivotal moment in the movement of parasport. But lastly, Nathan, quick thought on this. He's not moving away from sports entirely. Yeah, you heard that answer at the end. He may try something different. He may not be as heavily involved, but he's staying connected to sport, isn't he?
He's a guy, when you've been in sport for 25 years plus, you have such a connection to it where I don't think this is the last we'll see of Mike Whitehead. I know you'll be involved in some capacity, really helping that next generation grow. He's already done so much, but I feel like you can just hear that, feel that heart, feel that passion that he wants to give, and he just wants to be a part of it as well.
Yeah, I don't think Mike Whitehead is done either, but we are done on today's episode of the show, so be sure to check us next time, and you can catch us on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Until then, take care.
Thanks for tuning in to Parasport Nation. Like and subscribe to the channel to follow us now.